Today we will discuss about Earth. In previous lecture, we were discussing about geochronometry, that is the main source for the development of geological time scale, or that is the type of quantitative measurement of different types of rocks, material, minerals, and biological material to assess, to look for the ages of different types of material. Today we will discuss about Earth. So you might have an idea about Earth. Earth is actually the third planet from the Sun and the only astronomical object that is known to harbor life. And according to radiometric dating estimation, the evidence that is showing us, suggesting us that Earth formed over almost 4.5 billion years ago. This thing is actually repeated. This thing is actually again and again in repetition. You have studied about the Precambrian life, in which we were discussing about the formation of Earth process that started about 4.6 billion years ago, and most of the data is actually related to 4.5, 4.5, and 4.51 billion years ago. So all these values are actually the estimated and calculated values. They are correct. So you can simply say the process of Earth formation actually starts about approximately, you can use a simple approximation along with this, that is 4.5 billion years ago. The Earth gravity actually interacts the other objects in space, especially the Sun and the Moon, which is Earth only natural satellite. Earth orbits around the Sun in 365.256 solar days, and a period is actually known as Earth sidereal year. During this time, the Earth rotates about its axis about 366.256 times. This is the sidereal year, and that has 366.256 sidereal days. So this is actually a very brief introduction about Earth. Earth is actually the you can simply say that is the third planet from the Sun, and it is the only astronomical object that is harboring life. So we can say the Earth is almost 4.5 to 4.6 billion years old, and we have an idea, we have an estimation about Earth. That is almost 4.5 to 4.6 billion years ago. The process of Earth formation actually starts almost in the same way. If we discuss about the different types of dimensions and diameters of Earth, so we can simply say the equatorial diameter of Earth is almost uh, 1,256 kilomiles. That is actually the equatorial diameter of Earth, and the polar diameter of Earth is almost 12713 kilometers. These are actually the estimated approximate estimations of diameters. These values can also be variable in different types of literature. The deepest place that is actually found on Earth is Mariana Trench, and that is almost the point which is very deep. It's if we discuss about its depth, simply if we compare its depth with Mount Everest or K2, they, this point is actually much deeper than these mountain ranges. So the area of the Earth's surface is almost 197 miles square meter square miles, and Earth is actually simply a resource that is enriched natural resource. Earth is a natural resource. In a way, it is actually supporting life. Earth is actually having almost all type of components that are responsible for sustaining different types of life activities, different types of life forms. All activities are actually carried out on Earth. So Earth is actually a life supporting system for human beings and other organisms or animals. So we can say Earth is actually a type of thing that is actually having different types of divisions. The Earth is divided, but all these spheres are connected. Earth's, if we discuss about the Earth journal layer, Earth's outer layer is actually having layer. If we discuss about the outer layer of Earth, that is lithosphere. Lithosphere is divided into several rigid plate tectonics that migrate across the surface over million of years ago. This is actually the type of division that is that we are discussing about the outer surface of the Earth. that is having several rigid plate tectonics that migrate across the surface for several million years ago. About 29% of the Earth's surface is constituting of land that is having different types of continents and islands. It means we can simply say almost 29% of the Earth is having different types of hard material that is present in different types of continents and lands, islands. The remaining 71% of the Earth is covered with water. This value is actually a bit variable. This is also approximate value because of global warming and different types of issues. The volume of the area that is actually covered by water is increasing. So the remaining 71% is covered with water. Most of the water is actually available in different types of oceans, but the other sources of water are lakes, rivers, and fresh water, which together constitute the hydrosphere. It's mean Earth's major division is actually the lithosphere. Lithosphere is having different types of divisions, and almost 29% is of the land is actually having different types of continents and lands, and the remaining 70%, 71% is occupied by water body. The majority of the Earth's polar regions are covered in ice, including the Antarctic ice sheets and the sea ice of the Arctic ice peak. It's ice pack. It's mean we can simply say that the Earth's polar regions are covered with ice. Ice that is actually present in form of big glaciers. So most of the ice is actually Antarctic ice sheets that are present on the different regions of the world. The Earth's interior remains active with the solid inner iron core and the liquid outer core that generate the Earth's magnetic field and convecting mantle that drives plate tectonics. I mean, Earth is actually having different types of regions that is having in later slides we will discuss about them. That is having lithosphere, hydrosphere, biosphere. All these are actually the sphere of Earth that are important in terms of uh, sustaining different types of life activities. Uh, while we are saying that Earth is divided, but it is connected. How this Earth is actually connected in a way? The Earth is actually divided into four subsystems or spheres. We can divide them in atmos. Atmos mean gaseous sphere, and hydro mean water sphere, and litho mean rock sphere, and bios mean life sphere. These are actually the type of divisions that are related to that these all divisions are actually related to the system that is having different types of categorization, that atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, and biosphere. All these systems are actually independent and all these divisions or systems are working independently, but they are functioning as a whole. It's mean all these divisions are having their individual entities, but they are integrated with each other. They are functioning, they are actually they are cooperating with each other. It's mean we are actually unable to separate one system from another. So atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, and biosphere, these divisions are actually the type of divisions that are related to Earth. Atmosphere is the division that is related to gaseous mixture. Hydrosphere is related to water bodies, and lithosphere is that is having lithic composition, rocks and mountains and different types. And bios is related to the sphere that is sustaining life. Although these all systems are independent, but they are functioning together. Uh, they are into all these systems are all these subsystem, all these divisions, all these spheres are actually the type of integrated systems. They are working together. Next, in this picture, you can see there are different types of spheres of Earth. This is if you see, you have hydrosphere, that is the sphere of water that is that is actually covering almost 71% of the Earth. It is actually integrated system with biosphere. It's mean from hydrosphere, definitely the process of evaporation is all the time occurring, and we can have rain, precipitation, and all different phenomena that are occurring naturally, and then cloud formation and all this. So the biosphere is the sphere of life that is sustaining life. Then we have a lithosphere. Lithosphere is actually the lithic composition that is having different types of rock, stone, and minerals, and all type of stuff is actually related to this lithosphere. And then we have a division, major division of sphere of Earth, that is atmosphere. Atmosphere is actually the mixture of gases that is supporting, sustaining different types of life activities. So we can say all these spheres of Earth are independent, but they are integrated in a way they supporting one another. So first of all, we will discuss very briefly discuss about atmosphere. Atmosphere is actually the layer of gas that is surrounding the Earth's surface. The major different types of gases are actually present that surround the Earth's surface. This is the Earth sphere that is responsible for the life-sustaining activities. The atmosphere is actually the sphere that is having different types of gaseous mixture. Among them, oxygen is actually the main ingredient constituent while we are breathing and we are performing our activities. This sphere is responsible for the regulation of different types of climatic condition. It's mean this is the Earth sphere that is supporting life. This sphere is playing important role in regulation of different types of climatic condition. It acts both as blanket and filter. It means the gaseous mixture that is surrounding the Earth's surface is acting as a blanket. Or simply we can say this atmosphere is blanket of different types of gases, and it is acting as a filter as well. Earth atmosphere is actually we are talking about its composition that is having different types of gases. The mostly gases that are that are present, that are in abundance. Number one is nitrogen. Nitrogen and oxygen. These two gases are the higher are the gases that are present in highest concentration. The amount of nitrogen is almost 78 to 79%, and oxygen is almost 21%. With smaller amount of argon, carbon dioxide, and other gases. Why these two gases are present in atmosphere in a high concentration? Because nitrogen is the main agent that is responsible for that is responsible for the acceleration of different types of biogeochemical cycle, or you can say different types of biogeochemical cycle are actually accelerated. They are actually responsible for the formation of different types of systems. So without this nitrogen, we can't think about life, because the atmospheric nitrogen is fixed, and then that will become part of different types of plants, and it play important role in regulation of different types of biogeochemical cycle. And the second most abundant gas that is present is oxygen, that is almost 21%. This 21% oxygen is actually responsible for breathing activity. Without oxygen, we are actually unable to survive. So these two gases are actually the major constituent of atmosphere, with varying concentration of different types of gases like argon, carbon dioxide, and other gases. They are also present in the atmosphere. The layer of atmosphere is actually you can we will see in the next slide, that is having different types of in different images in next slide. The coldest part of the atmosphere is that is actually the having we will have the division of atmosphere, that is troposphere, stratosphere, and mesosphere. It can get down cool to up to minus 90 degrees centigrade in the mesosphere and contain ozone, and that absorb much of the sun ultraviolet radiation and contain most of the clouds and weather. In this slide you can see this is the Earth's atmosphere. In this diagram, you can see in this picture, you can see there is Earth. Earth is actually having different types of sphere. Among them, one was atmosphere. Atmosphere is actually the type of sphere that is having mixture of different types of gases. Among them, one is uh, one sphere that is categorized under that is actually related to the higher concentration of different types of gases that are responsible for the human life activities, that is troposphere. Trop- uh, the troposphere is actually the sphere that is having different types of activities, mostly The process of precipitation and rain formation is carried out in this sphere. This sphere is responsible for the formation of clouds and lightning and thunder, and all life supporting system is actually existent in this sphere. And the range or length, it actually from us, from sea level to from sea level, if we discuss about its value in kilometers, it almost extend up to 12 kilometers. It means we can say from sea level to up to 12, from 0 to 12 kilometer, 12 kilometer is actually the range that is constituted by this troposphere. And this troposphere is responsible for major event, that is the phenomena of precipitation or phenomena of rainfall. That is major event, that is a process driven by different types of that is actually the phenomena that is responsible for life sustaining activities for human beings and other organisms like plants and animals. So troposphere is significant and are important in terms of human beings life. And the next sphere that is present very next to this is a stratosphere. Stratosphere is actually the sphere that is having that extend up to 12 to 50 kilometer. This means 12 to 15 50 kilometer is actually the range that is having the stratospheric division. Stratospheric division is associated with the most important significant layer, that is ozone layer. Ozone layer is actually the type of layer that is responsible for the filtration of UV rays. So they are actually unable to reach the Earth's surface. So these this ozone layer is actually protective layer, that is actually the layer that is responsible for protecting us from the dangerous ultraviolet rays from the sun. So the stratosphere is significant in terms of ozone layer formation. And the second important event that is associated with this stratosphere is the most of the aeroplanes and different types of the activities are aeroplanes actually fly in this sphere. So stratosphere becomes significant. This sphere is free of different types of gases. So this is the zone where no precipitation, no cloud, no thunder storms actually can happen. So this is the zone, this is the sphere where most of the radiation activities are actually carried out in this stratospheric region. Next, from stratosphere, we will move towards mesosphere. Mesosphere is actually the sphere that is having a bit temperature variation. The mesosphere is actually the sphere that is actually having different types of temperature convections. So the temperature actually become more in this sphere, that extend about 50 to 80 kilometers. And from this mesosphere, we will move towards thermosphere. In this thermosphere, temperature become more higher and higher, and this is actually the sphere that is related to most of the satellites are actually revolve in this sphere. And the next, from thermosphere, that is almost 80 to 70 kilometers, we will have exosphere, that is actually dealing with exobiology or exobase, that is almost having approximately 700 to up to 1000 kilometers above the Earth's surface. It means we can say the Earth's atmosphere is actually divided into different types of spheres, and these spheres are actually responsible for carrying out different types of activities. Every sphere is responsible for performing its activity. The atmosphere, that is actually sphere of gases. This sphere of gases will have is constituted by different subdivisions. These subdivisions are having different types of activities. Like troposphere is responsible for the phenomena of precipitation and rainfall. Stratosphere is related with different types of radiation activities. Mesosphere is having different types of temperature changes. And then thermosphere and exosphere, these all are actually the division of atmosphere that are related to that is the mixture of gases that is actually a blanket. And most of the life activities are actually related to this Earth's atmosphere. Next, the important division of the Earth is hydrosphere. The hydrosphere is actually composed of water. That is water containing sphere. The sphere that is actually having water. It is composed of water that is covering about almost 71% is the constitution of water. It is actually composed of what no, all the water that is found on and under the earth, and or simply we can say the water that is present on the surface of the planet, including the different types of bodies. It means water that can be present in any form that will be included in this hydrosphere. This sphere almost covers 70% of the earth's surface. That can be a variable 70 to 71%. All these values are a bit same. So these are 70 to 71% values. These are kind of negligible values. So we can say approximately 70.5 or 71. This sphere is actually responsible for the water division of the earth. The earth and its earth that is actually responsible for the home of different types of plants and animals. It's mean the atmosphere that is actually the mixture of gases. According to that, that was responsible for the supporting system of different types of plants and animals. And the sphere of water, that is hydrosphere, that is responsible. That is actually also that will also have a kind of different type of plant and animal life. It's mean life is associated with the terrestrial environment and aquatic environment as well. Most of the earth's water is salty, and that is present in oceans about 97%. It's mean most of the earth water that is present in different types of oceans, that is salty in nature, and it approximately cover about 97%. Two-thirds of the remaining almost 3% is frozen in glaciers and polar ice caps. It means we can simply say the major water bodies is present in different types of oceans. That is salty. That is actually unable to be utilized by different types of human beings or different activities. So only the 1% of the hydrosphere is in liquid fresh water. That is even most of the this exists as groundwater downhill to the soil. It's mean we are actually utilizing we are actually depending on only the 1% of this hydrosphere water that is actually fulfilling the whole world's water requirement. And most of this water is present in different types of ground water. So groundwater, that is related soil, that we actually pump out from via different types of methods, by different machineries. So we actually depending on only the 1% of this hydrosphere water, or only among this 70 to 71%, we are actually looking for only 1% of water, and we are dependent on this 1% water that is responsible for our life sustaining activity. It is actually composed of all the living organisms on the planet. This includes all the people, plants, animals, bacteria, fungi, single-cell organisms that are found on Earth. It's mean if we discuss this hydrosphere in terms of ancient life, we can simply say initially the life was originated in oceans, and from oceans in previous lecture when we were discussing about Precambrian life, we have discussed that was one school of thought that was saying there were different types of microbial mats. Life actually originated in different types of oceans, and from that oceans these microbial mats were actually diversified by a type of Cambrian explosion. This explosion was related to the origination of different types of life phylums, and different all those organisms that are related to the Cambrian explosion were actually present at the base of this base of modern life phyla. So we can say the hydrosphere is significant in terms of paleontology in a way that it was the sphere that was responsible for or that actually played important role in origination of life. So we can simply say initially life was originated in different types of oceans, and then from aquatic environment the mode of life was exhibited to shifted to towards terrestrial environment, and then different types of succession processes and then gradual processes actually play an important role in formation of different types of communities, and then complex communities are formed and that support different types of life forms. So this sphere is actually the sphere that is actually having different types of bodies. In this picture you can simply say, you can simply see that this is actually that hydrosphere in this hydrosphere. From hydrosphere there is a phenomena of evaporation. By evaporation, almost 0.35 is actually the rain, that is the water is evaporated. By evaporation, the process of precipitation is actually happening. The vapor actually transport in the atmosphere, and when they reaches at the higher altitude, at the higher regions, then this actually these water vapors are actually moving by air. And when air move upward, it get cooler and cooler. When it reaches to the specific region or specific division of the atmosphere, then it become condensed, and then the phenomena of precipitation will happen. And then the water that is actually evaporated via different types of sources, that can be lake, that can be river, that can be ocean. Then it again come back to earth's surface, um, in form of rain, in form of hail, in form of shade, or in form of snow. So it actually constitute it again replenish, refill these water reservoirs or water bodies. So via these processes, the hydrosphere is actually maintained. So it's mean the water that is actually present in different types of ice caps, in different types of rivers, lakes, all that is actually following a type of hydrological cycle. That is actually or simply we can say the hydrosphere is actually having a hydrological cycle or hydrosphere cycle or water cycle. This water cycle actually water come and go, and we actually become never deficient of this water. In this way, this sphere is actually replenished. The hydrosphere is actually the sphere that is responsible for sustaining. Hydrosphere is also is responsible for life sustaining activities. Without water, without rainfall, we are actually we will have conditions that will be related to drought. So this sphere is also significant, also important in terms of human beings and other organisms. Next sphere of Earth, that is actually the solid part of the Earth. The solid part of the Earth is actually the part of Earth that is actually having different types of divisions. So the solid part of the Earth, that is actually the lithosphere. In this diagram, you can simply say that there is a type of volcanic activity. The lava actually come out, overflows from different sub subduction zones. So it actually come out at the earth's surface and it overflows, and all these volcanic processes are actually responsible for the different types of activities. So the solid part of earth, or simply we can say the lithosphere is actually the type of region that is subjected to constant changes. So these constant changes are actually responsible for the formation of for the formation that is actually having different types of Earth's formational processes. And if we generally discuss about the solid part of that, that is actually having a continental crust. Continental crust is actually the crust that is present at different types of continents. Then we will have magma chamber and वो discontinuity है, subduction है, sphere solid, uppermost mantle, oceanic crust, ocean trench, exonatory prism. All these are actually the type of divisions that are related to the solid part of the earth. It means lithosphere is actually the lithic composition of earth, and this lithic composition is responsible for the responsible for the he is also responsible for the formation of different types of mountain ranges, different types of rocks. So the lithosphere is also significant, also important sphere that is responsible for life sustaining activity. Next sphere, that is so that division of that is present on the earth is biosphere. Biosphere is actually the sphere that is responsible for different types of it mean the biosphere is actually the sphere of atmosphere that is actually having division up to which different types of life activities can be carried out. So it is actually composed of all the living organisms on the planet, and this includes all of the people, plants, animals, bacteria, fungi, and single cell organisms that are actually present on earth. In this diagram you can see there are different types of divisions of Earth. This is actually the lithosphere, this is hydrosphere, and this is atmosphere. Among these three, the biosphere is actually the region, the sphere that is responsible for the that is actually responsible for the life sustaining activity. So the biosphere is actually the sphere in which different types of life activities can be carried out. The entire part of the earth is actually land, soil, water, and atmosphere in which the living organisms are found is called biosphere. Or simply we can say the combined area, the lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere is known as biosphere. It's mean these spheres that are actually atmosphere, hydrosphere, and lithosphere, they are actually working independently. They are actually the type of individual systems, but these systems are integrated. These systems are correlated in a way that these systems integrate in a way that they support system. Let's suppose we have a biogeochemical cycle, that is a carbon cycle or nitrogen cycle. The nitrogen is actually fixed in atmosphere by involvement of different types of lightning activity. So from atmosphere, this nitrogen will become will fixed will reach to the land surface, that will become be related to or lithic composition. Then this will be available to different types of plants, and then plants grow. These plants are actually utilized by different types of animals and human beings. So when they die, they decompose, they once again become part of the soil, and then the soil sediments run off with different types of water carrying bodies. They become they become flow with different types of water agencies or water currents. They reach to the different types of oceans, rivers, and lakes, and from these they will become a part of this hydrosphere. And in this way, from hydrosphere, once again the phenomena of precipitation will happen, and all these processes are actually interrelated. So we can say biosphere is actually the sphere that is responsible for the integration of all these spheres. So we can say biosphere is a type of sphere that will include all spheres, that is lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. It's been the combining the sphere that actually combine all these spheres is biosphere. So biosphere is actually the sphere that will help us, that is actually helping us for different types of life sustaining activities. So this is actually the division of atmosphere, the earth, that is biosphere. This is major division that in which we are actually surviving. Next, if we briefly discuss about different types of layers of earth. So the layer of earth are almost, you might have an idea about different types of layer of earth. In this diagram you can see um, that the earth is actually having inner core and outer core. Inner core and outer core actually the type of core that are actually having the type of liquid consistency. Then we will have lower mantle and upper mantle. These are actually the layer of earth that are subjected to the maximum pressure condition. It means these layers actually are having a kind of rubber like nature. So these layers are also important for these two layers are actually the type of weight bearing layers of earth. And then we will have earth crust, and this earth crust is having a type of division that is related to different types of that is this earth crust is actually related to lithosphere, and lithosphere is the sphere that is related with other spheres that are atmosphere, hydrosphere, and biosphere. So we can say the earth crust from the earth crust or from the hydrosphere, another sphere start, that is troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermo, and exosphere, and then ionosphere. And these spheres are actually the type of spheres that are related to the layer of earth. It means the earth is actually a type of system that is responsible for different types of life activities. And if we generally discuss about the layer of earth, that is having this different types of constitution. Almost 1% of this earth is having earth crust. Almost 68% of this earth is having a constitution that is mantle. And as I have told you earlier, that this is the region that is responsible for the maximum pressure bearing activities. And the earth core is almost 3%. it's mean the most important layer of earth is actually the mantle, that is actually subjected to constant pressure, and if it loses its pressure, we will have a kind of disequilibrium phenomena on the earth's surface. So these layer of earth are actually responsible for different types of activities. So this was a very brief discussion. This was actually the brief idea about earth. Earth is actually a planet that is responsible